Hi, I'm Kyle Scislowicz, and this is Inside Auburn Hills, a series that takes a closer look at businesses of all sizes around the city. Today, I'm at Michigan by the Bottle, one of the newest and hottest spots in downtown Auburn Hills. Well, let's go inside and see what's poppin'. I met with co-owner and co-founder Courtney Casey to see how Michigan by the Bottle is turning wine into wealth. You went from being a former news reporter to now working at a tasting room for a wine company. Kind of explain how you made that transition and why you decided to do that.
Yeah, well, in 2009, my husband Shannon and I started a website called MichiganByTheBottle.com, and it was just a blog because we liked visiting the Michigan wineries, and we felt like there were a lot of them, especially the ones outside of the Traverse City area that were kind of underrepresented, and we wanted to kind of give them some love. So we started our blog, and it just took off. We found all these people who were loving Michigan wine. When we started our Facebook page, they wanted to come on and talk about it, and we would go do videos and interviews and articles and podcasts, and whenever we went anywhere, people would be like, I want your job. How do I get your job? And we had to tell people it wasn't our real job. So after a while of having people ask you that, you start thinking, like, how do I make this into a real job? And that's how we started getting the idea for the tasting rooms.
Awesome. And what led you to the wine industry in the first place? Was it just a hobby that kind of grew into, hey, I could do this on my own, or?
Yeah, it's funny because I've been going to Traverse City since I was a baby, and there were some people that we went up north with my parents, and they wanted to go visit the wineries. And when I was a teenager, when I was kind of tagging along and I couldn't really participate, I was like, oh, wine is so snobby, you know. And then when I could actually drink, and I started going to the wineries with them, and I was like, I found it was really fun, and I really enjoyed it, and there was a lot to learn, and I found I really liked wine, and there were so many different styles. So I started just kind of really enjoying it, and then when I met my husband, we found that we both really enjoyed it, and so it just kind of came out of there. And before that, I really wasn't really that into wine or anything, so it's probably been about 13 years maybe of being solidly really excited about wine, and just more and more every year.
That's interesting. Well, speaking of your husband, Shannon, I don't know if a lot of people know this, but he's actually, your husband, a co-owner and a co-founder for Michigan by the Bottle.
Yep.
How is that? How's that dynamic working with your husband?
It's fun. I think the good thing is that we have really different strengths. I'm more of the cruise director, and I plan all the events for the tasting rooms and do a lot of the marketing and the social media, and he's more of like the money guy and the logistics guy. So he has a banking background. He's really good at that kind of stuff. So we have complementary strengths and everything. But in terms of working together at the tasting room, we don't really share a lot of shifts because we definitely have different management styles.
Okay. So you said you started back in 2009. Mm-hmm. What's been one of the biggest challenges that you've come across up until now?
Well, we started in 2009 with the website, and then our first tasting room location was 2012. And when we first opened in Shelby Township in 2012, it was just Shannon and me. So in terms of doing scheduling and that sort of thing, it was like, you work this day, I'll work this day. We had about 4 tables and probably like 8 seats at the bar. And when it was full, we were like, oh my God, we're busy. And since then, it's just evolved a lot. We have a lot more seats, a lot more going on, a lot more events. And obviously now with 3 tasting rooms here in Auburn Hills and then Royal Oak and Shelby Township, we have a lot more team members, so it's awesome. We have a great team, but it's just very different from when Shannon and I were the only ones there, but luckily we have some really awesome managers, because you start realizing as you expand that you just can't do everything yourself.
Sure.
And then just the challenge of trying to find new events and what people like to do, what resonates with people, and we found a lot of success with workshops, because we find a lot of people feel intimidated sometimes when they go into wineries, but they want to learn about wine. So we try to do like no wine snobs allowed sort of workshops, and just keeping a steady flow of events and rotating the wines regularly, because we do have a lot of regulars who want to see new things all the time. So we're always partnered with the same wineries, but we do rotate through different wines. So.
Okay. So you have 3 locations, mm-hmm. Obviously one in Shelby Township, mm-hmm. one in Royal Oak, the third one, which you're in right now, Auburn Hills.
Yep.
Why did you choose Auburn Hills for the 3rd location? What made it so appealing?
Originally we had in our heads that we wanted to be near Great Lakes Crossing, and I'm not even sure how that idea first came about, but we were thinking we wanted to be off in that area because a lot of people would be shopping and maybe be looking for retail models. And we were looking for properties, and the one that we were looking at fell through, and we'd actually been in touch with Sean Keenan at the city, and just talking to the city to make sure that everything was cool in terms of Auburn Hills liking the idea, the concept, and they were really enthusiastic right from the start. And after our other property fell through, Sean said, I have the perfect place for you. It's in downtown Auburn Hills. You have to come check it out. And so we came down here, and as soon as I saw it, I knew that this is the spot we had to be in. With all the windows and just the ambiance of downtown, we were really excited to come down here.
Cool. So 2016, just about over. What are your expectations for 2017 as a whole for Michigan by the Bottle?
As a whole, just keep on expanding, keeping up with new events, and hopefully really building the customer base here in Auburn Hills. And there's still a lot of people who don't realize that we're down here quite yet, and we'd really love to expand that awareness. And looking forward to, once the weather gets nice again, opening the patio. We had this is our first location with a patio. And it's a really cool location here in downtown Auburn Hills. So we only got kind of a partial season because we opened in July, and then it was so hot for most of the summer that a lot of people didn't want to sit outside. Mm-hmm. So hopefully next year it'll be a little more moderate, and we'll have a lot of people enjoying the patio and the ambiance in downtown Auburn Hills. And just really getting more people in love with Michigan wine. There's a lot of people who have never had Michigan wine or didn't even realize that Michigan could produce wine. And a lot of times if you go to the grocery stores, there's only the sweetest, least expensive Michigan whites there, and there's just so much more that Michigan has to offer. There's sweet, there's dry, sparkling, dessert wines, whites, reds, and so we try to really showcase the full spectrum of Michigan wine.
Social media. You guys are so active on social media.
Maybe overactive.
Is that something that you've always focused on the beginning and emphasis for, or was that something that you kind of, a trend came about and you thought to yourself, well, we can reach our customer base a lot more effectively this way?
Yeah, a little of both. When we first started our main website, which continues to promote the entire Michigan wine industry because our tasting rooms are partnered with a select number of Michigan wineries, when we started the Facebook page for that page, we realized that people were just really excited to talk about Michigan wine, and every night on that page we ask people what they're drinking, and we share travel tips, and we share articles about Michigan wine, and just seeing the response there, we knew we definitely need to do social media for the tasting rooms as well. And originally we thought we would have one page for all the locations, but we found people couldn't check in if they didn't have that, so now we have a separate page for each location, which is nice because we have some different wineries partnered at each location and different events, and we just find that people really are engaged on social media, and especially Facebook and Instagram. So we kind of try to give people some behind the scenes looks and promote the events and let people know about new wines that are coming out. And we do get a really good response on social media. So sometimes I feel like, I never leave the computer, but it's worth it when people come in and tell me, I found out about this event because of Facebook.
Sure.
It's nice to feel like you're not just throwing stuff out into the wind.
Exactly. Speaking of those wineries, I know you mentioned to me earlier that there are only specific wineries that you can get at each location.
Yeah.
What's the benefit of doing it that way rather than having the same wineries at each location?
Yeah, well, we wanted to make a reason for people to go to each location because there's some distance in between them, but not a ton. So we do have a lot of people who go between all three locations, and especially with a lot of regulars, which we're really excited to have so many people who come visit us every week. We wanted to make sure there's something different for people all the time while still having a really close partnership with the wineries that we represent. So we're basically an off-site tasting room for those wineries, and in Shelby Township we have 6 wineries partnered there, and that's our original location. It's also our smallest location because we didn't know, if it would take off, what it was going to be like. And then in Royal Oak we have those same 6 plus 2, a little bit bigger location. And here, our biggest location, we decided to go in a totally different direction, and we have 12 wineries here, but only one of them is repeated at the other 2 locations. So hopefully giving people a reason to travel between the different locations, and also if people are trying to find their favorite winery, then it gives them a way to find it close to home. Mm-hmm. And we tried to pick mostly wineries that had little or no distribution in the area, or we have a few bigger wineries represented, but we usually cover or carry things that aren't found in the grocery stores so that people can experience some different wines from those wineries.
going on your website. It's really helpful with all like the wine info and wine facts. I saw something that kind of jumped out to me that over 2 million people each year visit Michigan wineries. Just on that fact alone, do you anticipate having more wineries in each of your locations, or you plan on sticking to that set amount per store?
We're probably going to stay with that set amount per store. We'll probably reassess as we go along, but wanted to make sure it's definitely worth it for our partner wineries to be involved, because we really truly partner up with them and try to do winemaker dinners and events with them and really kind of be that offsite tasting room for them. But we'll kind of reassess as we go along and see how it's going. But you know, the first 6 in Shelby, you know, they really took a leap of faith for sure, because they didn't know if it was going to work out or not, you know. So yeah, I'm not sure if we'll ever expand to more wineries in each of the tasting rooms, but there's definitely a desire at some point, maybe after we recover from this location, to possibly have additional locations and maybe be partnered with different wineries there to kind of mix it up a little bit.
Last question, I'll get you out on this. What's something new that you have planned for 2017 at any of the locations? Are there any kind of promotional materials or anything you kind of tease to the people at home that would love to get out here but really don't know what goes on here, I guess?
Yeah, well, we are celebrating our birthdays for our Shelby and Royal Oak locations. Those both opened in December. One was 2012 and one was 2014. So we'll be having our birthday bashes in January. Since it's the holidays right now and people are kind of wrapped up in the holidays, we usually do those in January. So that's a great time to visit us and kind of see what we're all about. Live music, that sort of thing, all kinds of contests and promotions. And then we're doing a lot of workshops and we're adding some more guided tastings. So my husband Shannon usually runs those. And it's a great way, if you don't really know a lot about wine, you're just getting into it, to really learn about wine in a really comfortable atmosphere. And the guided tastings are going to be kind of focused on a single winery. So if you're really interested in one particular winery, you can learn more about the winery and taste through some of their wines and learn a lot about wine in the process. And those are just so casual and comfortable, and a lot of people say that, you know, they're so intimidated when they go into other places, and we try to really make it accessible for everyone here.
Gotcha. Sounds like something I'd enjoy. Cool. All right, well, that's all I got for you. So
all right,
I appreciate it. Thank you.